18 longest life imprisonment sentences in history. 9. Martin Bryant, 35 life sentences plus 1 though 35 years. Martin Bryant is the man behind one of the worst mass shootings in modern history. In 1996, he carried out the Port Arthur massacre in Tasmania, Australia, where 35 people were killed and 23 others injured. Armed with semi-automatic rifles, Bryant moved through the area targeting strangers, leaving the country in shock. His arrest came shortly after, when police cornered him in a guest house following an hours-long standoff. Bryant was later diagnosed with significant intellectual disabilities, but the court ruled that his actions were deliberate. In 1996, he was sentenced to 35 life terms, plus more than 1,000 additional years without the possibility of parole. The case directly led to sweeping changes in Australia's gun laws, effectively banning semi-automatic weapons. To this day, Bryant remains in prison in complete isolation, considered one of the most notorious criminals in Australian history. 8. James Kevin Pope, 40 life sentences plus 60 years. James Kevin Pope, a former teacher from Texas, was convicted of horrendous crimes involving the repeated sexual abuse of a young girl, whom he also filmed. When investigators searched his home, they uncovered extensive evidence that revealed the full scale of his crimes. His arrest came after a long investigation that began when suspicious behavior raised red flags in the community. During his trial in 2011, the court learned that Pope had abused the child over several years, and the disturbing nature of his offenses shocked even experienced prosecutors. The judge imposed one of the harshest sentences ever handed down in Texas, 40 life sentences, plus an additional 60 years. The court stated that the sentence ensured Pope would never leave prison. His case stands out not only for the sheer number of life terms, but also as a grim example of how trusted community members can commit unspeakable acts. 7. Abdulkadir Masharipov, 40 life sentences, plus 1,368 years. Abdulkadir Masharipov is the man behind one of the deadliest terror attacks in Turkey's recent history. On New Year's Eve 2017, he stormed into the Reyna nightclub in Istanbul, armed with an assault rifle, killing 39 people and wounding nearly 80 others in a matter of minutes. The attack, claimed by ISIS, shocked the world and left Turkey in mourning at the start of a new year. After a 2-week manhunt, Masharipov was captured in Istanbul and brought to trial. In 2020, a Turkish court sentenced him to an almost unimaginable punishment. 40 life sentences without parole, one for each life lost that night, plus 1,368 years in prison for the attempted murders of the survivors and other crimes connected to the attack. The staggering sentence was meant not only as justice for the victims, but also as a powerful message of deterrence against future acts of terrorism. Even though no human being could ever serve such a sentence, it symbolizes the enormity of his crimes and ensures that Masharipov will spend the rest of his life behind bars with no chance of release. 6. Loy Nguyen, 49 consecutive life sentences. Loy Nguyen was the only surviving gunman in the 1991 Sacramento Good Guys electronics store hostage crisis. On April 4th, 4 young Vietnamese immigrants, Loy, his 2 brothers, and a friend, stormed the store and held 41 people hostage for over 8 hours. What began as a violent siege escalated quickly, with hostages being lined up as human shields behind store glass, bizarre demands like a helicopter, bulletproof vests, and flight to Thailand, and furious negotiations with police observed live on television. The standoff ended in a deadly confrontation. 3 of the perpetrators were killed, and 3 hostages lost their lives. Authorities arrested Loy Nguyen, who was wounded but survived. In 1995, after being convicted on 51 counts, including murder, kidnapping, attempted murder, and assault with a firearm, Loy Nguyen was sentenced to 49 consecutive life sentences in prison, many without any chance of parole. 5. Gary Ridgway, 49 life sentences, plus 480 years. Gary Ridgway, infamously known as the Green River Killer, is one of the most prolific serial killers in American history. Operating primarily in Washington state throughout the 1980s and 1990s, Ridgway preyed on vulnerable women, often sex workers, and left their bodies in wooded areas near the Green River. He was arrested in 2001 after DNA evidence finally tied him to multiple murders. In a shocking courtroom confession, Ridgway admitted to killing at least 71 women, though he was officially convicted of 49 murders. Many believe the real number could be higher. To avoid the death penalty, Ridgway cooperated with investigators, leading them to victims' remains. In 2003, he was sentenced to 49 life sentences, with 48 of them without parole, plus an additional 480 years for tampering with evidence. He remains incarcerated at the Washington State Penitentiary, where he will spend the rest of his life. 4. Brenton Tarrant, 52 life sentences, plus 480 years without parole. Brenton Tarrant is the man responsible for the 2019 Christchurch mosque shootings in New Zealand, one of the deadliest acts of terrorism in the nation's history. Armed with semi-automatic weapons, Tarrant attacked 2 mosques during Friday prayers, live-streaming the massacre online. In total, 51 people were killed and dozens more were injured, sending shockwaves around the world. Tarrant was arrested shortly after the attack when police rammed his car off the road. During his trial, he initially intended to represent himself, but later pleaded guilty to 51 counts of murder, 40 counts of attempted murder, and engaging in a terrorist act. In 2020, he was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, becoming the first person in New Zealand's history to receive such a sentence. The judge imposed 52 life sentences plus 480 years, ensuring he will never leave prison. Tarrant is currently being held in Auckland Prison under strict security measures. His case remains a grim reminder of the devastating impact of extremist violence. 3. Abdullah Barghouti, 67 life sentences plus 5,200 years. Abdullah Barghouti, a member of Hamas, is considered one of the deadliest bomb makers in modern history. During the Second Intifada in the early 2000s, he constructed explosives used in a series of devastating suicide bombings across Israel. These attacks killed 66 people and injured hundreds more, making him one of the most feared operatives of the conflict. Barghouti was arrested by Israeli forces in 2003 and put on trial for his role in multiple bombings. In 2004, he was convicted and handed down an unprecedented sentence, 67 life sentences, plus 5,200 years in prison. This remains one of the longest prison sentences ever recorded in history. Despite his imprisonment, Barghouti has often declared that he feels no remorse and continues to be a symbolic figure for extremists. He is currently held in an Israeli prison under strict security conditions, with no chance of release. 2. Michael J. Devlin, 74 life sentences plus 2,020 years. Michael J. Devlin shocked the United States when his crimes came to light in 2007. Working as a pizza shop manager in Missouri, he kidnapped 2 young boys, Sean Hornbeck, who he held captive for over 4 years, and Ben Ownby, who was abducted just days before Devlin's arrest. The case broke wide open when police, investigating Ben's disappearance, discovered Sean alive in Devlin's apartment, bringing national attention to the horrifying ordeal. During his captivity, Sean had been subjected to repeated abuse, while Devlin managed to keep him hidden in plain sight. Devlin eventually pleaded guilty to all charges, including kidnapping, child molestation, and production of child pornography. The judge imposed one of the harshest punishments ever, 74 life sentences plus 2,020 years in prison, effectively ensuring he will never leave prison walls. He is currently incarcerated in the Missouri Department of Corrections, serving what is essentially a sentence for multiple lifetimes. 1. Terry Nichols, 161 life sentences plus 9,300 years. Terry Nichols is best known as the co-conspirator in the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing, the deadliest act of domestic terrorism in U.S. history before 9/11. Alongside Timothy McVeigh, Nichols helped plan and carry out the bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building, which killed 168 people, including 19 children, and injured hundreds more. After McVeigh's execution in 2001, Nichols stood trial for his role in the attack. Evidence showed he helped stockpile the materials used to construct the massive truck bomb and assisted in preparing the explosives. In 1997, Nichols was convicted of conspiracy and involuntary manslaughter, and in a later trial, he was found guilty of 161 counts of first-degree murder. The court handed down a sentence that remains the longest in history: 161 consecutive life sentences plus 9,300 years in prison. Nichols is currently serving his time at ADX Florence, the federal supermax prison in Colorado, with no possibility of parole. His punishment is symbolic of the immense scale of the tragedy and ensures he will never again step outside prison walls. Subscribe for more.